Hi, this is Lex at the Canadian Anglo Club, and you're watching the Comic Book Syndicate.
Like, are you guys worried, like someone like George, are you, as an artist, are you guys worried about censorship?
Not personally. In a way, I feel like Ultimatum for me went further than I would have liked it to have gone, to be honest.
Yeah, it went pretty far.
Yeah, and I knew this is what they wanted of the story, and this is what I did, but yeah, not really my aesthetic too much.
Yeah.
So, but DC actually is owned by Warner Brothers, and this has been, 15, 20 years now? And Warner Brothers is obviously a huge, huge corporation, and a lot of people had the same concerns then, and Warner Brothers has basically ignored DC Comics for 20 years. And just now that Disney has bought Marvel, Warner Brothers has changed. DC Comics is now DC Entertainment. They just changed this, and actually they replaced Paul Levitz, who's the president, and put in somebody that was in charge of the, not the whole movie division, but a part of it, and she's directly answerable to the head of Warner Brothers Films. So I'm completely restructured DC as a result. It seems like it's going to be a big publisher battle. It's exciting in a way. We don't know what to expect.
As far as censorship, for me, like, if I get 12 letters in that indicate that a giant fish man's too scary, I have to change it. So I'm suffering from censorship every
That's
day.
Windsor Star censorship.
Actually, Tony, I wanted to ask you about, now that you're doing the conduit, I know that you got to meet Ramita.
Yeah,
and
a couple
actually
times now. It's great.
and speak with them. Have you contacted him since you started doing this?
Yeah, and in fact, John Romita was a hero of mine when I was growing up. He's the guy that was working on Spider-Man when I was a kid. And now that I have some stuff that's getting published, I was able to meet up with him a couple of years ago in Toronto, and he was it was one of those refreshing times that you meet your hero, and he's actually as nice a man as you would hope that he would be. In fact, more so. And I spoke to him about 2 weeks ago because he also has a project that, although he hasn't worked on the strip since 1980, he has a book that's coming out, or that just came out, that reprints all of his newspaper strips from 1977 to about 81. So I was talking to him about that, and he was telling me that it was the most miserable time of his entire career. He's been working since the late 40s. He started out doing like Captain America, in the mid-50s and doing romance comics. He said that 4 years that he worked on the Spider-Man daily strip aged him 10 to 15 years. And he was used to, doing big pages and beautiful artwork, and he said it just drove him crazy, meeting those daily deadlines. As well, he was the art director at Marvel at the time, so he just threw his hands up in the air and said I was crazy for taking on 3 of these things, which he's right, but if you look at his stuff, I'm glad that he took those 4 years and did it, because I'm utilizing these strips that he did 30 years ago. And every time I think I did a good strip, I can flip back to those and say, I don't even touch this guy. This guy was so good and so clean with his ability to take his artwork and jump from format to format. And it really is a colossal jump from doing the large comic book page, where you can think these things through so much more elaborately than you can with the little miniature strip. But I thought his 4 years on that strip is possibly one of the best comic strips, period, that's ever published. There have been some great ones: Alex Raymond's Flash Gordon, Hal Foster doing Prince Valiant, and lots of other funnier strips too. But I've always looked at that and said, this guy took everything that Milton Caniff did with Terry and the Pirates. These are old references that most people are probably not going to be familiar with. But he took what was so good from all of these guys: the Kirbys, the Caniffs, the Roy Cranes, the Hal Fosters, and he made them so clean and made it such a readable strip. And there was such an impressionistic realism to his work that if you look at it, it's just a few lines, but you end up somehow getting that implied realism that a lot of artists today that are drawing every brick, you don't get the sense of what they're trying to impress upon you and their locations the way that this guy did. So I love this guy, and he's great, and I pretend to have reasons to phone him up all the time just so I can talk to him, and I just make stuff up, and then he's a talker too, so you get to, and so am I. So it just goes on and on for a long time, and he's a great guy who just sits there and
he was
yaks.
a working artist as well. Like he
Yeah.
took it on as a career and a job, and did it that way, structured. I mean, I know yourself. You probably have to do, punch in and punch out necessarily, but there has to be a discipline to it as well.
Sure,
Or
especially
it-
with kids, which he had kids. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he went through that.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's got to be a lot of just, the time that it takes to do an illustration, never mind, even if you do have inkers and writers and other people working with you. So, you can't be tired, you can't be this, you can't be, it's so easy to fall asleep at the desk while trying to.
And you can't ever wait till the muse strikes to work.
No.
You have to just go. No such thing as, I think that's a big difference between, illustration and fine art. Illustration, it's your job, you just have to do it.
Are you going to worry about white plastic anymore with your?
Oh yeah, man. We're hard
your
to
plans for that?
It's well, what happened was this was a book that's been in the works for about a year and a half now. But just as we were ready to release it last year, Diamond changed their distribution requirements, and we didn't think that we would be able to meet those sales requirements with the book beyond maybe the first issue. If we were lucky, we might hit the sales necessary for Diamond to push it for one issue. Well, at that point, it was of no value to us because you have a book out and your second issue goes nowhere. So we've devised a crazy plan that kind of pulls in a charity as well. There's a group called the Heroes Initiative that acts almost like a pension plan for older comic book illustrators and writers, basically anyone who was involved in comic books back in the days when it wasn't paying the same kind of wage that some of the great guys are making now, and women too. So they go around to all the different conventions and they sell product and they put things together to try to raise money for this pension fund. Let's say there's an older gentleman who his vision's failing and he needs an eye operation. Well, there's no pension plan for the guy who came up with, I don't know,
X-Men, the hair, Colossus.
Whatever, something. So they'll approach the Hero Initiative, and there's a board of directors that will then assess whether or not the need is there, and they will utilize this money and pass it on to them. Sort of like a pension, not quite. But they travel to each convention. So what we're doing is we're going to take half of our total printing of each book, give it to them. They're free to sell it and take all the money that they make from it, keep it. We figure we can sell maybe 1,000 or so to start, just with our family and friends. And they will actually act as our distributor by taking it around to the different locations in San Diego, Chicago, Toronto. Wherever they go, they will be able to take these things, sell it, keep the money, but they're actually acting, it's a two-way street. We're getting some benefit out of it as well because they're distributing our book. So hopefully it works itself out. The timeline on it right now, the print date is probably about 3 weeks from now, so we're hoping to have it out for around Christmas.